when it comes to the right tackle competition, how much competition do we think the Lucas Niang, Darian Kennard pairing potentially needs? Do we think that? I mean, is this a top 100 pick? If at all, where's your line here? Let's just say, where's your line personally, Matthew? At tackle.
Line for what? What am I drawing a line on here? Okay, Candace, I'm just going to unload this. I think the moment the Chiefs signed Jawaan Taylor, it immediately became left tackle, left tackle, left tackle. That tells me right there less about Jawaan Taylor, and it does that the Chiefs have an option that they are at minimum okay with at right tackle. And that's an option, can't be a potential draft pick. So somebody on the roster they are at minimum okay with, or I don't think it would be Jawaan Taylor as a left tackle, left tackle, left tackle. It would be offensive tackle. We'll see where he goes. They immediately shoved him to the left side. That lets me know that they think that there is something they can already do on the roster at the right side. Not saying they won't look for an improvement, but I think right now, if they had to go play a game today, they feel okay with what they have at the right tackle because that's their goal. That's their plan. That's what they want to do going into every draft. I think that's Lucas Niang. He clearly was getting the second team reps going into the Super Bowl, hence why he was the one that was on the field, hence why he was the one that got to play when Andrew Wiley was out. I think they feel okay with Lucas Niang going out there with the starters if they had to play a game right now, and that's the reason that Jawaan Taylor was left tackle, left tackle, left tackle, never even contemplated right tackle.
I mean, I would agree. I think that they're very comfortable with those two going out there on the field, taking snaps at left tackle and right tackle, and not feeling like they have to spend a round one pick or trade up or make a big move to try and fill that position. I think that there's something to be said for a guy like Darnell Wright having his second official visit with the Kansas City Chiefs, offensive tackle out of Tennessee that played both left tackle and right tackle.
We believe he has been on a top 30 visit. There are context clues to believe that Darnell Wright is not just in the Kansas City airport because he heard it's awesome.
That's true. Yes, I should not make big assumptions as to the fact that he's here for a top 30 visit, although why else would he be here? So Darnell Wright, who may or may not be visiting with the Kansas City Chiefs, has that left tackle, right tackle flexibility. More comfortable at right tackle, did play some left tackle at Tennessee, has played exactly the amount of left tackle in the NFL as Jawaan Taylor. You can line those two guys up and see who fits best with you. Like, make that an open competition between those two guys with Lucas Niang as a swing tackle, Darian Kennard and Prince Tega Wanogho as depth. Now I'm comfortable. I'm super comfortable with it. And I think the Chiefs would be as well. But that floor is there, like Maddie said. Knowing that you can go into the season, you have spent enough time with Lucas Niang to say, hey, we trust that he can line up and he can play over there. As long as he's healthy, we are comfortable with his level of play out there. And to be honest, what we've seen out of him has been fine. It hasn't been elite, but it has been more than fine. So if he can stay healthy, that's the big question there. Then yeah, maybe the Chiefs do sit there and say, hey, we're going to be comfortable. We're going to be able to do what we can do with him as the right tackle. We don't have to force anything else, but it does keep the board open for competition.
So I go back and forth on this a lot because investing in right tackle early turns like I think Orlando Brown, Jawaan Taylor is a wash. I think it's going to become and be proven to be a wash at best or at worst. I'm sorry. I genuinely think Jawaan Taylor has ceiling to be a much better tackle, a better fit for this football team. I believe that this move will pan out wonderfully for them. Andrew Wiley was up and down last year. There were some real rough moments. He finished strong, played well in the Super Bowl, got a little bit of money. A Darnell Wright turns a strength into a bigger strength, potentially, in a big way. But the question is it best to allocate those resources elsewhere to try to fix other problems on this roster and deal with the fact that you're probably getting, four offensive line pieces taken care of, and now you're just kind of, trying to figure things out and hope Lucas Niang holds up okay. Maybe you throw Prince Tega Wanogho out there. You're throwing numbers at it. Are you content with the numbers that you've thrown at it? Or are you just going to say, you know what? We're going to draft Darnell Wright early. We're going to Probably move on from Joe Tooney next year. So now we're going to have 4 of the 5 locked up for this year. And then, you're probably going to move on from one of a Creed Humphrey or a Trace Smith. These are the things that are going through my head about where to value the right tackle position.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this takes me back to talking about the entire offensive line, but still focusing on the tackles, because that's what I do around these parts. You've got investment into 4 offensive line positions. I don't think there's a reason to make sure that you have a heavy investment into the 5th. And so I don't know if you go into this draft thinking you have to get another high investment, a high draft pick, spend money, whatever it may be on a right tackle. Very few times are teams going to spend that level of capital, whether it's monetary or in the draft, on all 5 offensive line positions. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's just not something that every team does. Not every team thinks you have to do that. So the Chiefs have spent heavily on their left tackle. Now's kind of the time that I think they need to try to get by with a lower spending on the right tackle. Now, you can get cash savings by drafting a good right tackle. Don't get me wrong. That's where cash savings come from. But when you look through this roster, there's still other holes that could use a round 1, a round 2 draft pick. Is this roster currently the way it is with 4 quality offensive linemen that you've invested in? Is that really the spot where you want to spend that round 1 pick or that round 2 pick right now? I get it. Protect Patrick Mahomes, save him from getting hit. Guess what? He's made pretty average offensive tackles look pretty decent his entire career. Mike Rimmers made it a good chunk of his life at right tackle, or a good chunk of his season at right tackle, and looked fine. Andrew Wiley was a guard. His first year starting was a guard in place of Lucas Niang when he got hurt, was a guard who kicked out to right tackle. And guess what? He looked fine. He looked so fine that he started the following year and went on to get paid by Washington. And now they might still move him back inside. Like, Mahomes can make offensive linemen look better than they actually are too. It's not just wide receivers or tight ends he can make better. So is it really the best spending of assets to go ahead and put more into one position group of the entire 53-man roster? I don't know the answer. It's just I'm with Kent there, and that's where my head goes.
I don't disagree with that line of thinking. I think that that's smart. And, I think that you've given yourself a high enough floor. And as we talked about all last season and, kind of moving on from Orlando Brown Jr., if you feel comfortable not having to help both tackles, well, hey, great. You can focus your attention towards one. We've seen them be able to handle it with both guys, but especially when they've just had to focus on the one side, it's been pretty strong. They haven't had to worry about it as much. My only counterpoint to that would be Joe Tooney. You can easily get out of his contract next year. And he's getting older. Joe Tooney is very important to this team. And if they decide to keep him for the life of that contract, by all means, do it, because he's not going to be the highest interior offensive lineman. I mean, he's already not, but he's going to that's going to dwindle pretty quick here, especially after Creed Humphrey gets paid as well. But you can move on from him, save about $10 million against the cap next year, and kind of make your offensive line to where you're not paying as many guys. So maybe you do take a little bit of investment. You play the board the way that you want to. Even if it is a round 1 guy, you are moving on from a big cap hit, that next year, and you can kind of absorb some of that a little bit. And you still only have 4 guys that you're really concentrating on.
Thanks for watching this production of KC Sports Network, the fastest growing sports media network in Kansas City. Check out these videos that feature our team of more than 15 former players, insiders, and analysts, bringing you the best Chiefs coverage you can find. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.